Polio was the most dreaded childhood disease of the 20th century. Polio crippled thousands of people, mostly young children. Most of us don't remember how terrified parents were that polio would leave their children either unable to walk or force them to spend the rest of their lives in an iron lung. In the summer of 1921, a 39-year-old man from Hyde Park, New York, was stricken with polio. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was on a political path and did not want people to know that he had become paralyzed.
I had polio when I was 9 months old, so I don't remember the intense pain. I'm aware now that there's an acute stage that lasts roughly 2 weeks. In my case, the primary problem was my lower limbs. I have no left thigh. I have a good left calf and a good left ankle and foot. I have an overdeveloped right thigh, not very good calf, and a real messed up right foot.
In 1926, FDR, the popular politician, bought the dilapidated Meriwether Inn and Spas in Warm Springs, Georgia. He was hoping that the minerals and constant 88-degree temperature would help heal his legs.
In 1930, my father died, and so the Depression being what it was, we had to move with our grandparents in Indiana, but Indianapolis had a hospital for crippled children. It was called the James Whitcomb Riley Hospital. I underwent several reconstructive efforts and finally what they called a tendon transplant, and essentially turned my right foot around so that I could get both feet on the ground.
FDR was elected president in 1932. He was seldom photographed in his wheelchair. He even painted the lower portion of his braces black so that they wouldn't be so noticeable. Wanting to help citizens, especially children who had polio, FDR founded the Foundation for Infantile Paralysis in 1937. Eddie Cantor, a popular radio personality, coined the phrase March of Dimes as he urged his listeners to send their spare change to the White House. Within 1 week, the White House had received $268,000, one dime at a time. Roosevelt's foundation was then forever known as the March of Dimes. It raised millions of dollars to find a cure for polio. Roosevelt died in 1945. The next year, he was memorialized with a dime in his own image, the FDR dime.
We believe that we can overcome anything, and FDR believed it. He was determined. He was determined to overcome, and he believed that he would someday be able to walk. As it turned out, he couldn't.
After World War II, the epidemic grew worse. From 1945 to 1949, there was an average of 20,000 polio cases each year, just in the United States. The worst year ever was in 1952. 58,000 cases of polio were diagnosed. Dr. Jonas Salk had been working on a vaccine for years. Finally, in 1955, he had a promising serum. Once they knew it was working, the March of Dimes launched a massive immunization campaign. Polio cases began to decline, and thankfully, in 1979, our country was polio-free. Some studies estimate that over 600,000 citizens had been paralyzed by polio. Knowing that polio could be eradicated, Rotary International launched Polio Plus in 1985. Together with the World Health Organization, their goal was to immunize all children in all countries and eradicate polio from the face of the earth. There are only 4 countries left with outbreaks of polio. They are India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. There is a new push to get this done. Bill and Melinda Gates think it is very important. They have given $200 million to the Rotary Foundation with a request that Rotary clubs from around the world match their gift.
The polio challenge that we have now, the challenge being to meet the Gates Foundation $100 million, and we're matching that. So we're trying to, and not only trying, we're going to raise more than the $100 million. We're going to exceed what the norm, which is $1,000 per club for 3 years. We're determined to exceed that, and I'm sure we will. The Polio Survivors is working with an organization called Post-Polio Health International. We want to get Rotary clubs to locate survivors in their own communities to see if there's something that the club could help them to do. And what we've suggested is that the survivors would offer to go to the club. I succumbed to what's called post-polio syndrome, which essentially is that after having recovered from polio, you wear out sooner than normally you would. So we live at a continuing care retirement home. We've been here a year and a half, and it's very nice. It's convenient. It's a little harder for Betty to get, but for my wife Betty to get used to living in an apartment and having meals here rather than her doing it. But from my standpoint, it's wonderful. We have a great view. We're right in the middle of a golf course, and I've been playing golf ever since I was old enough to shag balls, and hope to, on the last day, I hope to be looking down the first fairway and remembering